my first taste of punk rock was listening to The Damned while I was getting my hair cut by Dawn. And I said, so what do you think of this punk rock stuff? He said, punk rock, it's great!
1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Every new day, the dollar goes down, the sea's getting blacker.
By 79, I was really hurting on what to take pictures of, you know, and I went to a D.O.A. concert March 23rd, 1979, and thought, wow, I want to do this. I want to take photographs.
Well, there was a lot of boredom with all of the music that was out there, and the music was so bloated. Punk was just so exciting and so much more musical, really. It took music down to its simple roots, and it was rock and roll, and it was fun. D.O.A. and the Subhumans were really great for finding young bands and off-the-wall talent and something interesting to throw into the show. Joe was really good about that.
Joe may have invented the phrase hardcore, or, you know, using it as music as opposed to anything else. And or California may have done it, or if you listen to Henry Rollins, he probably invented all of it.
D.O.A. was sort of, you know, a little rougher sounding, a little more aggressive sounding than a lot of them. You know, some of the LA bands were a little smoother sounding, I guess you could say.
None of them here got signed to major labels. They put their own records out. It was a real do-it-yourself kind of thing.
Punks are resourceful and recycle and use whatever, use a garbage can for a snare or a tom, you know. They just don't give a fuck.
And there was warehouses that people along Water Street, warehouses that people rented warehouse space to practice and stuff like that, and they would throw gigantic, huge parties there, which were venues in their own silly way. You know, it was like putting on a concert in your house, so to speak.
Lots of spots up and around the Hastings area, but I couldn't remember any addresses.
There was John Barley's, the Waterfront. Carnegie Center, well, the first time I tried to photograph it, Gambado's, which was another venue, people were jumping around and the band was there, so I went into the middle of people jumping around and got a black eye. That was the first show that I shot.
Well, of course, the Smilin Buddha was the one. We played there so many weekends. That was the hub, for sure, of the music community, the punk rock community at that time.
I think the Buddha stands out the most because it actually was a place where people would take on booking. You know, the Downtown Eastside was sort of hurting for business. So the Smilin Buddha ran every night, but the punk gigs would only be Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Basically, all they've really got is the skid clientele. So you come in with like young, eager drinkers, and all they see is dollar signs, right? So they'll allow our eccentricities, right? Because they see it as helping them stay in business, right? So,
in terms of an actual venue, it was like the only place that allowed punk rock. So there weren't really any choices. It's not like we preferred the Buddha to playing, you know, in kits. It's just they were supportive, and they were the only people who were supportive. So that's why. It's an awesome sign. You know, it was kind of cool being down there with all the derelicts, and it was definitely gritty.
Bands would come through town and know about the Buddha at 109 East Hastings Street and go down on a Tuesday night, and it was just, you know, 10 people in there listening to country and western music. I often wish that I'd taken photographs of the capacity. I think it was like 120 or 100 and something, and it got down to 97.
It's not that dissimilar from the way it is today. There's not that many places available to play. And the ones that were, you know, could be picky.
And it was closed, I think, in 97 or 98. It actually closed down. And it just became irrelevant at some point.
And, I mean, it still is, in a way, a community where everyone knows each other. And it was definitely like that then. I mean, you see the same faces on the street and the same faces in the bar. It was a fairly close-knit community in its own way.
I know a lot of these street people, like, you know, they're on the outskirts of society too, so I guess we have a healthy tolerance and respect for each other that mainstream people don't have. So, you know, like any one of these regulars feels safe around us because they know we're harmless and protective and, you know, creating a safe place for them to not be victimized. So.
I thought the Downtown Eastside felt safer then than it does now. And I've spoken to other people about that also felt the same way. Of course, it's the drugs. The drugs that people are using now are making them much more dangerous to anybody walking by with anything that you could sell.
But you know, I mean, what killed the scene was the heroin. There's no question about that. You know, so many people died, and so many people just kind of lost what they had, their talent or their motivation. It was the heroin that killed it.
Stoned out of your head on acid and voodoo. You can't tell your parents what it is